Back with us on the SportsMax Zone, 31-year-old Grenadian referee Reon Radix stood in his first CONCACAF World Cup Qualifier last Thursday as the USA beat Jamaica 2-0 in Austin, Texas. Radix's decision to avoid sending off two reggae boys for two first-half incidents, major talking points during and after the match. The first decision involved a blatant foul by Kimara Lawrence very early in the contest, while the other concerned a despairing sliding tackle by the centre-half Damian Lowe. On that second incident, Radix's selection for and suitability for a game at this level called into question by the ESPN commentary team of John Champion and Taylor Twellman. The criticism of Radix's decision not to produce a red card on both calls went down badly with many viewers, and both commentators took a lot of flack from users of social media. Now, I criticized both men on last Friday's show in concert with my colleagues, and our views are supported by many watchers of this show and others who chimed in on our social media platforms. Now, one of the commentators, Taylor Twellman, has reached out to set the record straight about his comments, and he joins us now. Taylor, good afternoon. Welcome to the SportsMax Zone.
How are you? Good to see you, George.
Good right here. I trust you are well as well. You would, of course, have been aware of what was said in the aftermath of that game last Thursday, and I'm sure you'd have seen what we had said right here. And we have been having a conversation off air about the thing you said and how you wanted to frame it, what you intended to say, and so forth. And we felt it necessary to give you this platform for you to seek to clarify what is it that you were saying about Radix's performance last Thursday.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. First off, what you and Lance and Mariah did is very important in that it's holding everyone accountable for what we do. I'm not going to sit here and look into the camera and tell you I'm 100% perfect. Never have been, never will be. I watched the game over after watching your comments. Traditionally, I always do this anyway, so it's not as if your comments forced me to do this. I watch every game that I commentate at least 2 times over, go over it with my bosses and whatnot. And the one thing I wish I would have done more so is that you guys understand me, George. You've heard me call many a games. Understand that I am passionate about accountability. I'm passionate about where this sport is going. And I found it completely ridiculous that CONCACAF did not give the officiating crew that evening the proper tools to do their best. Now, you said it best. That was his first World Cup qualifier. Now, we can debate what's a foul, what's not a foul. That's the beauty of this beautiful game. And that always is going to be a debate, especially on the second play of whether or not that was a foul, whether or not that was a red card. But the indecision from the referee to blow it, not to blow his whistle, but more so to decide what kind of card was given immediately after, showed me that the moment may have been too big. However, what I did wrong and didn't do a good enough job on this is say that my issues, my problems are 100% with CONCACAF. It is not with the referee of that evening. It is not with what he did there. We can always disagree. That's what the beautiful game is. But CONCACAF's indecision to properly lead these these officiating crews in World Cup qualifiers, George, Maria, and Lance, these games of this magnitude where they do have the resources to help the other nations that do not have those resources to be able to have that within the stadium, that is where my passion lies. And I owe that to the viewers. I wish I would have done that more, and that I apologize for. George, you caught my attention when you brought race into this. And this is where I need to learn and I need to grow, because race has never been a part of it. Red, white, green, yellow, black, that was never part of my decision. I can promise you this, and I'm going to look at the camera. I don't care if it was a male, female, whatever that officiating crew was, and those decisions were made, I was going to react the same. However, that doesn't mean that that's not the reaction that's going to come from my enthusiasm, from my comments, from the way I acted. And I just wanted you three and all your viewers to know that that's part of the growth for someone like myself that's grown up as a privileged white man that needs to understand that sometimes in those critical moments, especially in criticism moments of how they can be perceived, but I didn't want anyone to think that race was at all 100% part of my analysis, because it wasn't, it never has been, never will be. But that doesn't mean I can't improve and learn from understanding the perception of how I analyze in those moments, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense. And I can say that your point about the lack of the tools available to the match officials for them to do their job to the best of their ability, that's a solid point. That point is well taken without a need for rebuttal or addendum on my side. And certainly I'm sure I speak for the team in saying that. And had that point been driven home on Thursday last, we probably wouldn't be here having this conversation. The point, though, Taylor, about the referee and why I made the point about lofty perch and comments for those down was because of this. You know very well that every referee at every level, whether you're a Champions League referee, Mark Clattenburg in his pomp, you are Pierluigi Collina, you know him very well from the 1990s, the famous bald-headed referee from Italy, or any of the great World Cup referees that we've seen over time. If for you to get to a point where you have done 50 World Cup matches, 50 Champions League games, or 10 World Cup matches, or 100 games in the Premier League, you would first have had to do your first Premier League game, your first World Cup game, your first Champions League game. So the fact of Radix in his first World Cup qualifier is a natural progression for anybody, because there was a time after your MLS career, and we were big fans of yours when you were an MLS guy. We didn't see you as a white forward. We just saw you as a very good forward in the MLS for so many seasons. The fact is that we saw Reon Radix as a man in his first World Cup qualifier, and we believe that, okay, the commentators have a duty of responsibility to criticize what he did while still not making it seem to somebody looking on as if you are saying that he ought not to be at this level, that he is really put in a position where he doesn't have the skills to function here. What is he doing here? That was the impression created. You know very well that, look, in this time of highly emotive reasoning, I am very wary of talking about race and everything, because I don't get as worked up as some people do, because I think that some things are just reasonable. Other people say, oh, they are race baiting or they are doing this. I stay away from that because I hate to hear it. And it's the easiest thing to draw someone in and bring the baying masses to criticize them for being racist and everything. I avoid doing that. I don't like it, and I don't want to do that to people. But Taylor, based on the comments from Champion and yourself in the moment, it seemed as if, here as I framed it, here are two gentlemen. The fact is, both of you are white. You can't escape that. You are.
Of course.
Reon Radix is a black man. He can't escape that. And based on the comments in the moment, it seemed as if what was being said was that this chap, this fellow, has no business being here. And because he is unsuited for this stage, because he's so inexperienced, no experience at this level whatsoever, that's why he's making the calls that he did. When in truth and in fact, one of the calls, Stonewall penalty. The second call, highly debatable. And then on replay, we saw that there was contact with the ball. I don't have to tell you about that. You played the game at a very high level, so you know. So I'm just saying that in the moment, my comments were not driven by what people said on social media. But it's so funny that usually, Taylor, you say something and there are some people in the comment section who disagree, some who agree. There was not one dissenting voice. Everybody said, George, that's exactly how I felt watching the commentary. And that is why I felt it necessary to engage you right here for you to straighten out what it is that you meant by your criticism.
Yeah. George, absolutely. Two things here. First off, I'm completely comfortable being uncomfortable and having a conversation, because that's the only way, quite honestly, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to speak for us in general as people. We've got to be able to have uncomfortable conversations in order to learn, in order to raise our hand and say, you know what, I wasn't good in the moment and I need to improve. That's first and foremost. So I'm fine having an uncomfortable conversation. That's why I reached out to you, because I do think there's validity in your criticism, which is why I listen. I listened to it because it was, one, filled with passion, but two, more importantly, I think there's some validity there. I'm going to tell you how I saw the play. If the referee, when he blew his whistle, immediately gave a card, I would have been less reactive. And you know why? Because you're 100% right in the sense that he's got to have his first game in order to have his 50th. But that's not me. Just be decisive. Make your decision and move on. And I think that would have steered me George, I'm only speaking for myself, into the direction of saying, you know what? He's made his decision. It's right or wrong. That's not what I'm going to point at. It would have got me directly to and at the final point of saying, hey, CONCACAF, are you going to help your officiating crew out? I think the delay, knowing as an ex-player being on there where he can't talk to anyone. Yes, he went and talked to the assistant referee. I had no problem with that. But the second one, he stood there for almost, from my calculation, 31 seconds and didn't give a card. That's where I think I took the bait and hook and said, you know what? This moment's too big. I agree with you about experience. In order for me to do my 400th ESPN game, I had to do my first. And judging by my 400th, maybe they shouldn't have given it to me after my first. But I digress. My point is, I'm okay having the uncomfortable conversation. I'm completely okay learning. And I do think, as we do talk about race, I firmly believe this, is that as the privileges that we have had as white folk at some time, it's hard for us to understand what that means and how that's perceived until we talk about it. And so, again, I have no hard feelings. I have no hard feelings with the social media comments. I just wanted you guys to have the ability to see my face, see the emotion, see the understanding that, you know what, I did listen. I did take notes, and from this point forward, I'm going to improve. But I'm also not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to screw up again because I'm human. I'm going to. Yeah. And in the moment, I am more than impassionate sometimes. It gets the better of me. But truth be told, from my perspective, I just want the viewers to understand, I would have gone after that ref no matter what color, what race, what gender, no matter what it was. I just felt like CONCACAF needed to help him do better and be successful. And that is something they're not doing to any official right now in World Cup qualifying.
To err is human, Taylor, and we'll always err, and we have to learn as we move on. And just, I know you have to go, just as we wrap up, the fact of the matter is that when you consider how fresh in people's minds, Taylor, was the incident at Anfield, Liverpool, Man City, what happened with James Milner, and how Drury and his color analyst mentioned the fact that Milner got away with, dodged a second yellow card, which would have perhaps not caused the Salah goal to develop on his side of the field where he was in his left back, at his left back station. And people were saying, well, so how come is it in that high stakes poker game of a top of the table Premier League clash, the commentators there can move on from that mistake and say, all right, you know, and the error was made, move on. But that these guys kept going on. It may have been because of the reasons that some people would say, oh, they think they're high and mighty and the ref is beneath them. So I'm very happy that you've put those comments into context.
George, can I say something real quick? I wasn't commentating that game. I would have lost everything on that indecision. Because if you go to my Twitter feed, I actually tweeted about it twice, and I was using the emojis. My brain was exploding. So just so everyone understands, if I was commentating that game, I would have lost it. I would have absolutely lost it because that was inexplicable. But that's the reason why I reached out to you, because you brought up a point to me. And again, I'm listening. I'm not going to listen to every social media comment because it's a world right now that doesn't want to have cordial discourse and conversation. But George, you and your colleagues, Lance and Maria, on that desk, I could see it. It was real. It was genuine. And you know what? I said, I need to listen to this. And so I watched the entire episode. I watched the entire thing. That's why I reached out to you. But again, I wasn't commentating that Liverpool game. I promise you one thing, and one thing only, I would have lost it.
Excellent. Well, Taylor, thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming here to speak and to set in context what you meant and what it is that your real grouse and your real gripe was with. And I hope that we can all move on from the mistakes that we will make in this line of work and the scrutiny that our comments come under, and that we'll all be better for it as we go along. Thank you.
Yeah, we need Jamaica in the World Cup, by the way. We need them in the World Cup.
Oh, yes, yeah, we
See
do.
you guys.
Thank you very much. All the best. Taylor Twellman there. Team, what say you?
I think he was very sincere. I think it's very big of him to come on the show, George and Lance, and I did say that. I listened to his comments. I know that this will not happen in the future based on what he said. At least he'll be more mindful. And he did say, you know, we're all open to making mistakes and whatnot. And I put my hand up too, because we sit on this show every day, and I don't know, sometimes I'm very passionate about West Indies cricket. People get really angry at me from time to time. They even say that I don't know what I'm talking about, all these different things. And I'm one of the persons who will be willing to put my hand up too when I make a mistake. So I think it was really good that we had him on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what was significant for me is that he quite, you know, blatantly said he is comfortable talking about uncomfortable issues, and he was willing to face it head on. I thought he was excellent just now, and I'm very pleased about his position and explaining about how passionate a commentator he is, because he is. When I listen to Taylor Twellman, I hear someone who is delivering a product that he feels a lot about deep down inside of him. So I understand everything that he just said, and I accept what he said about it being an honest reaction from his standpoint. And for the viewers who probably didn't get the fullness of what he's saying, a lot of it had to do with the fact that the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, George and Maria, do not have VAR assisting the referees, because he and John Champion had said it during the commentary that if the VAR was available, errors made by Radix in the game could have been corrected immediately by going to VAR. So that was part of his disappointment with CONCACAF and assisting the match officials. But Taylor Twellman, I just saw a different side of him. I know him as a player. I think I commentated a few matches with him while he played for the USA, and of course he had played for the New England Revolution, where the Grenadian Shalry Joseph was an outstanding holding midfielder for over a decade, and he would have been Taylor Twellman's teammate for probably 8 or 9 years of those MLS stints. So I'm happy.
He also played with Avery John.
Yes, he played with Avery, the Trinidadian yes. as well. So I get everything he said just now, and I think it was a huge plus for us to have had him on the show today to talk in the way that he just did, because as we have established in an undisputed fashion, there are a lot of viewers in the Caribbean who were very upset about the pronouncements from Twellman, and even more so John Champion, because I thought Champion was a lot more expressive in his views against the Grenadian referee, and I was disappointed listening to it.
And George, I just want to say it's so easy to say sorry, but what we will be doing is monitoring him moving forward to ensure that you don't make that mistake again.
Yeah, you know, and if you notice how we started this thing last Friday, you know that people, if you say something that somebody disagrees with, or you do something that they don't find favor with, immediately they say you're rubbish, because they disagree with you, so they say you're rubbish. Mm-hmm. You notice I put it out, the first thing I said, Taylor Twellman, John Champion's respect in this part of the world is tall. This man has been the voice of Premier League football, Champions League football, big level football for a long time, highly respected. Mm-hmm. Taylor Twellman is someone that I was a fan of Taylor Twellman as a footballer. Yeah, I thought that he should have done so much more for the US, because he was a superstar at the MLS level, but injuries, that concussion he had, really took away a lot from him, and his USA numbers aren't what his talent dictated they should have been.
Yes.
But as an analyst, he is very well researched. As Lance said, Mariah, you can see that he is a student of the game. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And so when I heard him, I was like, what the devil? And the problem is, as I told him in one of the private messages we exchanged, the reason I was so upset was because I expected better from both of you, because you know better. That is what really got my goat. So I'm very happy, as we have said and agreed, that he came here, put into context what he was saying, and let's hope that persons can listen to him, forgive him, and move on.
Yeah. But without hitting Champion too hard, George and Mariah, Champion was the play-by-play commentator. Taylor Twellman is the analyst. He is the person that is expected to dissect what is happening on the field. And that is part of the reason why I felt Champion was even more guilty than Twellman was, because Twellman was doing his job. It's not so much the job of the play-by-play commentator to give too much of his own opinion, which is what Champion was doing a lot.
Yes.
Twellman was doing what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to analyze the game and and fill in the blanks between what the play-by-play commentator is doing and analyze the game.
As we do when we work.
Yes. But I found Champion was overstepping and giving a lot of his own opinions about the referee's performance, which to be quite, I'm not saying a commentator play-by-play can't do it at all, but the primary function of the analyst is to do that. So I just thought Champion didn't have to be so vociferous in his criticism of the Grenadian referee, especially right throughout the game. You know, outside of the points that he disagreed with, there were several points later in the game that he chose to make comments disparagingly of the referee's performance, which I thought, as the play-by-play commentator, John Champion, I thought that was disappointing.
Referee Radix, wherever you are, I hope you would have learned from the experience, sir, and your next World Cup qualifier will see you performing even better. And more importantly than that, Taylor Twellman said it, CONCACAF, you really, really owe a duty of care to your referees, your match officials. Give them the tools to help them to make better decisions and to do a better job. That's a takeaway point from the conversation this afternoon so far. Take a break. Back with more on the SportsMax Zone.